Welcome everyone. If you want to put in the chat what school board you're joining us from, that would be great. Jennifer, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Amanda, Paige, nice to see everybody. So just an overview of our webinar today. We have some partner organizations working with us. So the U of T trash team, Don't Mess with the Dawn, one piece a day. We're trying to leave some time at the end for Q&A, and we'll let you know about some upcoming learning events that we have. So I'd like to acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. So good afternoon again. I just want to welcome you all to our Waste Not, Want Not webinar, Reducing Before Recycling. And I think many of you are aware that Ontario launched a new Blue Box program on January 1st. And in Toronto, it certainly expanded what we can recycle, things like black plastic and coffee cups. But today we want to focus upstream in the 6R hierarchy, where recycling is truly our last resort. After rethinking, reducing, especially packaging, refusing at purchase, reusing, repairing, and repurposing. And you may ask why we want to prioritize reduction. And there's, many reasons. Landfills are facing mounting pressure with limited capacity, exacerbated by planned obsolescence and endless consumption growth. Making new plastic is cheaper than buying recycled plastic, so plastic production will just continue to go up. Single-use items are a core problem in the disposable design. They use a lot of resources for a few minutes of convenience, and then they persist in the environment for decades or centuries, causing pollution, climate emissions, and harm to wildlife and people. And with the help of our 3 educational partners, we're going to rethink our waste today. So first I want to introduce the U of T trash team. So they're based out of the University of Toronto. They're a science-focused community outreach group that works on reducing plastic pollution and increasing waste literacy in the community. The group is made up of students, researchers, staff, and local volunteers, and was founded in 2017 in collaboration with the Rockman Lab in U of T's Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. And today we have Haley joining us. She's the Education and Community Science Specialist with the team, where she leads the Waste Literacy Education Program. As a scientific researcher studying plastic pollution, her expertise ranges from microplastics' effect on ecosystem, transport in the environment, and solutions. And she recently completed her PhD at the University of East Anglia and Plymouth Marine Laboratory. So I'll pass it over to you, Haley.
Yeah, thank you for that intro. I'll just get started. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm very excited to talk to you about our program as well as plastic pollution. So in today's talk, I'm just going to share a bit about who the U of T trash team is, although you've done a really good job summarizing it for me already. I'll share a bit about why we care about the issue of plastic pollution, but also what we can do about it. And then I'll go into some more details about our education program specifically, as well as some research looking at the effectiveness of education and promoting waste literacy. So, I can pretty much skip this, but for those who don't know who the U of T trash team is yet, we are a science-based community outreach organization. So we are comprised of lots of volunteers, students, staff, and early career researchers. And our shared goal is to increase waste literacy in our community while reducing plastic pollution in our ecosystems. So we work through 3 main work streams. The first is community outreach through cleanups and presentations. We also have education, which is what I'll be focusing on in today's talk, and this is through our school program. And then our third work stream is solutions-based research, which consists of data-driven projects that inform solutions. So a little bit more about me and my role. So I'm the Education and Community Science Specialist, which means that I coordinate our school program, but I also assist with our solutions-based research and other community outreach programming. And prior to this, I just finished my PhD in environmental science, where I studied microplastic pollution in coastal environments. And this photo on the right is actually me from my undergraduate degree. I was one of the first U of T trash team volunteers, which I'm very proud of. And this photo is from our Urban Litter Challenge, which started in 2019. And it's something we run every September, but we have cleanups all around the city. So it's been a very full circle moment for me. So just to start with the problem with plastic, why is it an issue and why have I dedicated so much or almost a decade of my life to studying this problem? The issue lies in how much plastic we produce year after year due to high demand and consumption. So, since the 1950s, plastic production has increased exponentially. By 2017, we had produced approximately 8.3 billion tons of virgin plastics or new plastics. And it's really difficult to imagine how much waste that is. But to put it in another perspective, 8.3 billion tons is equivalent to the weight of 1 billion elephants. And if we continue production at the rate that we are, we'll have produced 26 billion metric tons of plastic waste by 2050, which is about 3 billion elephant weights worth. So there's some obvious reasons why we produce so much plastic and why they've become something that we use every day. Plastics are cheap and really easy to produce. They're also lightweight during transport and shipping, which aids in reducing greenhouse gas emissions because less gas is used when you're transporting lighter things. It's also very durable and can be manufactured to be extremely rigid, flexible. It can be heat resistant, UV resistant. So it has so many applications, which means it's been used in industries all over. This includes medicine, safety, like in helmets on our bikes, communication, for example, in our laptops or phones, and it's also used in transport, in cars and planes. That's why it's so valuable and why we started producing so much. There's also a lot of plastic that we don't need. So it's now used so much that it's hard to go a day, let alone a few hours, without using plastic. And although there are valuable uses for it, there are also plastics that are not necessary. So in this, on the slide, you can see lots of examples of single-use plastic. There's a water bottle, plastic cups, straws, cutlery, bags. And these single-use plastics, they're used only for a short time before being discarded. And a lot ends up in landfill or in the environment because a lot are made from non-recyclable plastics. So our plastic consumption habit has now outpaced our waste management systems. This means that a huge amount of plastic waste escapes our systems and reaches the environment. We are simply producing and using too much plastic to be able to deal with it effectively. And you may have previously heard the estimate that 8 million tons of plastic waste enters our oceans every year. And even with all current efforts to reduce plastic pollution, if we keep producing and using plastic at the rate that we are, this number could reach up to 90 million tons per year by 2030. So plastic entering the ocean, lakes, and rivers. And what makes plastic particularly nefarious is that it takes an extremely long time to break down, and even then it doesn't disappear completely. So almost every piece of plastic that has ever been made still exists in some form, likely in smaller fragments or microplastics, as is shown in this image. And this means that plastic never really goes away, and instead it just keeps accumulating in the environment. And we've now found plastic in almost pretty much everywhere we've looked for it. And the issue with it accumulating in the environment is not just because plastic pollution is an eyesore, but because it threatens the health and survival of wildlife through entanglement, ingestion, and even the chemicals associated with plastics. So this is a question for everyone listening. You can just take a second to think about it on your own. But of all plastic waste or all plastic ever produced globally, how much do you think has been recycled? So there's 4 options. I see some people are already contributing to the chat. But yeah, have a second to think. Is it 49%, 27, 9, 1? You might all know the answer already because I think it's a stat that's been quite popular. Okay, we can reveal the answer. So for those who said 9%, you were correct. Of all plastic that's ever been produced, so since the 1950s, only 9% has been recycled. Almost 80% has gone to landfill or the environment, and 12% has been incinerated. And much of the waste that ends up in landfill or the environment is avoidable because approximately 40% of plastic produced every year is just single-use packaging. So it's only used once and then thrown away. So there have been some efforts to increase this recycling statistic. You may have seen there's been lots of changes to our recycling system in Ontario, but also across all the provinces. And while I can't speak directly to how the Blue Box program or circular materials works, the basis of it is that it's rooted in extended producer responsibility. And the aim of this is to incentivize plastic producers to make their products more recyclable or reduce the amount of plastic altogether. And this is because producers of plastic now have to pay for the end of life of their products. And overall, this means more waste harmonization across the province, and even more is able to be recycled. And while plastic can't be recycled infinitely, every item that is recycled reduces the amount of energy required to make new items. Plastic is made from oil, which is a fossil fuel, so by reducing these demands for oil, for plastic production, recycling can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And importantly, recycling does contribute to the diversion of waste from landfill. And as was mentioned previously, actually, landfill wasn't even mentioned as an option, which is even better than what I was about to say, which is landfill should be the last option, but it's even better if it's not an option at all. But before recycling or landfill, we should consider refusing, reducing, reusing, repairing, repurposing, and all the 6 R's by the TDSB. And so when we just use something once and throw it in landfill, this ends up encouraging the continued consumption of fossil fuels and the creation of new products. And landfill space is not infinite, so eventually we will run out. So it's really important to prioritize alternative ways to dealing with our waste. And while recycling is an option, we just can't recycle our way out of this problem simply because of how much plastic we produce and use on a daily basis. So we need all forms of solutions. Some of these solutions on an individual level can look at these 3. So you can reduce consumption of plastic by using fewer plastic. You're not contributing to the need for increased production. You can also improve waste management at home. So sorting your waste. If you get the plastics that can be recycled, that's great. And then also you can clean up the environment. So leading cleanups will help to remove plastic from the environment that's already there. But none of these solutions are possible without education. So education and waste literacy is at the core of our mission because none of these solutions are possible without first knowing about it. And that's why we started the school program. So I'm now going to talk a bit about our school program, which was started in 2020 in partnership with the TDSB. It was developed through the collective work from many people, including U of T trash team volunteers, researchers, teachers, and staff. And we knew that education was core to our mission, so in 2019, we held brainstorming sessions to develop this program. And these discussions are what created the foundation of the lessons that we teach today. And they were developed using the Ontario Grade 5 curriculum and the Global Competencies Framework to prepare the next generation for the challenges of the future. And while it was initially designed for grade 5 students, there was a lot of overlap with other grades and a lot of split classes, so we do now visit grades 4 to 6 as well. And this is a free program to book, but we are limited by distance and traveling, so we do have designated boundaries for where we travel. Our school program is based on 4 approaches. We are first a solutions-focused. We are solutions-focused. We not only want to inspire and educate, but we also want to promote attitudes of self-efficacy so that students can feel like they can make a meaningful difference with their actions. We also try to maintain a fun, positive, and inclusive tone. This is because the topic of plastic pollution can be really daunting and scary at times, so we try to remain as fun and positive as possible. We also foster inquiry-based learning to allow students to ask questions and develop their own conclusions. And last but not least, we use a student-to-student teaching model. So we actually train undergraduate and graduate students at U of T to deliver our lessons, and this format provides learning opportunities for both U of T students as well as TDSB students. So we have 4 lessons. These are designed to either be taught on their own or sequentially through 4 separate visits. Lesson 1 is focused on the plastic cycle. So how is plastic made? How do we use it? What do we do with it when we're done using it? Our second lesson is once plastic finds its way into the environment, how does it travel through a watershed? Our third lesson looks at once it's in the environment, how does plastic impact wildlife and ecosystems? And our last lesson focuses on solutions to plastic. So we highlight the solutions hierarchy as well as we do a brainstorming exercise so students can come up with solutions themselves. From 2020 to 2025, we have been able to deliver almost 300 lessons, visit 100 classrooms, reach 2,500 students, and trained almost 50 U of T students to be instructors. So this is just a map of our geographic range so far. These are all the schools we visited. You can see there's like more of a concentration in the downtown core, and this is because our instructors commute to schools using the TTC, so it has to be within a certain range. And while our reach has been pretty good, we also wanted to know how effective our lessons were in inspiring change. So to do this, in 2021 to 2023, 2 researchers at U of T, Dr. Rafaela Gutierrez and Dr. Shelby Riskin, led a study to understand the efficacy of our school program in increasing waste literacy among grade 5 students. To do this, they used a questionnaire to assess students' environmental knowledge, attitude, and self-reported behavior. So this questionnaire was given before they had our lessons and then 2 months after they had our lessons. And this research had ethical approval from the TDSB and U of T, and only students that had parental consent participated in the questionnaires. So if you have any questions about the methods or results of this, you can save them for the end, but I've also included Dr. Shelby Riskin's email at the bottom here, and she's one of the lead researchers, so she'll be able to answer your questions. So what they found was that environmental knowledge did increase, but this was specific to the areas that we taught. So for example, after having our lessons, they knew they were more likely to answer what plastic is made from. We also found that attitude changed in some ways. So after our lessons, students recognized that litter was a problem and that they can make a difference by reducing their own use of plastic. And lastly, there was some self-reported behavior changes as well. This was in the form of easier changes or low-hanging fruit kinds of changes, like switching to using a reusable bottle. But from this research, we've been able to adjust our lessons and make them more impactful and equip students and teachers with activities to encourage further behavior change. So, for example, we now include challenges at the end of our lessons, and you can write like a letter to your government representative. And while we didn't see change across the board, what we have learned from this program and other programs through the U of T Trash Team is that you just have to be persistent. But change is possible. All of these solutions can be made possible through education. So yeah, thank you all for listening. If you'd like more information on the trash team or our classroom visits, there's a link there, which I think we'll share as well at the end. And if you'd like to be notified for next year's classroom visits program, you can send me an email. They're usually open in early September, and I can add you to the notification list. But you can also email me if you have any other questions. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Haley. Really appreciate that. Now we're going to hear from Don't Mess with the Dawn. This is a volunteer-led Canadian registered charity in Toronto that focuses on protecting and restoring the Don Valley and the city's ravine system. It is made up of local trail users and nature enthusiasts who organize cleanups, stewardship work, and advocacy efforts around the Don ravines. And I'll hand it over to you now, Sean, and Sia.
And Sia. So I will just give a little bit of a history and where we've gotten with Don't Mess with the Dawn. It was started way back in 2018, and it was a call out to trail users. It was started by 3 trail runners, myself, Lawrence, and Irene, and basically we saw running through the trails that we used in downtown Toronto along the Don, Sunnybrook, and Taylor Creek, all that surround our beautiful city. We saw a lot of dumping, a lot of trash being blown over from apartment buildings. They were on these trails that are not cleaned by the city. So it's not off of the paved trails that the city would clean. They were out of sight for most people, so nobody paid any attention to it. So we wanted to draw attention to it, and we put a call out and we started organizing cleanups. Our first Earth Day, I think we had between 600 and 700 people out, and we cleaned up tons and tons of garbage, and it kind of blossomed from there. And we've partnered with UFT Trash Team and One Piece, who are both here today, on many cleanups over the years. And from the cleaning up, we've kind of expanded into our other programming. And most of the programming stems out of the conservation, the advocacy, and the caring for our green spaces here in Toronto. The first program that we launched after doing cleanups was the stewardship. Also running through and using the trails, we noticed invasive species. Dog strangling vine, buckthorn, Japanese knotweed. These take over and destroy native species and ruin habitats for animals, birds, and all kinds of environmental havoc is raged on them. So we started with a small plot of land in Sun Valley, and we started cutting and bagging and taking back the land, one little acre at a time. And we started removing all of the invasives and then going back and planting. And we, of course, don't do this by ourselves. We work with volunteers. We bring out companies, we bring out students, we bring out schools even, and they'll come, and with direction of our stewardship folks, they will learn how to properly remove and properly kill off the invasives, and how to properly plant trees and plant other native species so that they can survive and blossom. After that, we moved into I think the next one would probably be the Saturdays at the Container. We wanted to bring people into the space, into the green space, and teach them more about the surrounding green space that we have, so that they can have a connection to it and have a care for it, so that when they're tossing their garbage, they know where it's going. So we set up these Saturdays at the Containers, we called it. We would we'd invite children of all ages to come out, and they would do like an art project. They would make art out of the invasives, or we'd carve pumpkins. We would go down by the river and explore fishes and test the water with other organizations. And all kinds of programming stem from that. We are maybe 2 or 3 years after that, we got into our mountain biking program. We wanted to lower the bar. It's expensive to have mountain bikes and to maintain, so we worked with companies and partners to provide bikes, and volunteers would take anybody out that wanted to sign up. They would take them out, show them how to mountain bike. While going through our ravines and trails, we're always talking about how they can be more connected and care for it. We do the same with our youth trail running, also a free program. All of our programming is free. With the youth trail, we take youth out, we teach them how to trail run, and take them through the ravines and show them everything. They show them about the invasives, where the trash is, and what we do to protect and to clean it up. About 2 years ago, we branched out and started the Paddle and Protect program. Down at Cherry Beach, we got a container, and we were able to again work with partners to provide paddle boards and kayaks, and we now take groups out to clean up in the waterways and the beaches. It all stems from caring for our green spaces in the city and bringing people together as volunteers, creating a community around a shared access and shared caring for the environment. We then branched off with the closing of the Science Center. We got the idea of where all these kids from the summer camps that can no longer work or be hosted at the Science Center. So we started with a 1-week camp. I think that was 2 years ago now. And then we've blossomed from that. We now do a paddle and protect camp, a mountain biking camp, and a regular summer camp. We had a program with Tim Hortons. During our cleanups and our time spent in the Don Valley, a lot of the trash we would come across is Tim Hortons. They're all kinds of trash would be found. We found everything from bicycles to tires to pieces of cars. We get bumpers. We get all kinds of things. But the thing that comes up time and time again in hordes and hordes of amounts is the Tim Hortons trash. So we wanted to bring notice of this and advocate for this to see if we could get Tim's to kind of take notice and try to educate their customers around what to do with their garbage. We have a lot of people that they go for a hike, they grab a Tim's and they walk into the woods with their Tim Hortons cups, drink their coffee, and then just toss it when they're done. And we wanted to try to change behaviors and educate around this. So we started a campaign, and we worked with many different people to kind of bring attention to this. And we worked to get some cleanups organized, and we organized these cleanups around 2 different Tim Hortons. One of them was down at the lakeshore. So with a group of probably about 100 volunteers, we went and did a cleanup, but we marked points everywhere we found a piece, a Tim's lid, a Tim's plastic cup, or a Tim's coffee cup. And as you can see, it's littered with pink dots. Some areas were too big to represent with dots, so you have like 1,000 pieces in that one area. And this is all concentrated around Tim Hortons locations. So people by foot pick up their stuff, and when they're done with it, it ends up on the streets. This was a cleanup done by Overlea, which is really close to the E.T. Seton Park. We've done tons of cleanups along the Overlea Bridge that goes over the parks, and people just toss it over the bridge. There's Tim Hortons cups littering the valley and our woods, and these are our green spaces that are used by many and abused by many. So we wanted to change behaviors and call attention to this. So we created the Tim's program, and from that, it's kind of we got into contact with Tim's and we talked to the organization a bit, but a lot of what they've pushed back is it's not our problem. Like we sell a product, and the customer's responsibility is to deal with the trash when it's done. But we wanted to bring more to it, and it's an ongoing thing, and we are working with it. But we now have some youth engagement. I'll hand it over to Sia now with the next slide. They've kind of taken up this Tim's project, and they're breathing new life into it. So I'll let Sia speak to that.
Yeah, so just to build off of what we just shared, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we've been approaching this from a more student youth-centered perspective in order to get more engagement from schools and from youth in our community. So just to introduce myself, I'm Sia. I'm a student at Danforth Tech, and I've been involved with Don't Mess with Dawn for quite some time as a student volunteer, working in cleanups, stewardship events, and other community events like Saturdays at the Container. So I first got involved in this project actually through a business conference. If you've ever heard of DECA, this is a photo of me and my fellow castmate and friend who was not able to make it today, but who has also been heavily involved in this campaign. We wanted to bring more attention to environmental responsibility in spaces where it was often overlooked. And our work in this campaign was actually recognized by DECA as one of the top 9 projects in our event, and we'll be presenting in Atlanta, Georgia this April. We're really excited to continue this conversation on a larger, maybe even more international scale. As a student, I see firsthand how much waste from places like Tim Hortons actually impacts people my age. There's actually a Tim Hortons right down the block from my school, as you can see, and I'm always seeing empty ice cap containers and just other Tim Hortons litter all around the streets around my school. And the huge problem here is that youth voices are more often than not left out of conversations surrounding environmental responsibility and corporate accountability. Even though we use these green spaces like the most, and we're going to experience the long-term future effects of poor waste management, we're just not really involved in these conversations, which is really unfortunate because young people bring a lot more new ideas and energy, and we have a real role in pushing change in our community. So to turn that idea into action, we've been focusing on ways to get more students involved in this Tim's Let's Talk campaign in a tangible way. One of the first things we did was we created a new Instagram account under the name Tim's Let's Talk. We've already gotten a bunch of engagement and responses from both students and eco clubs in the TDSB who are interested in supporting this initiative and collaborating with us. From here, we've been trying to expand into more hands-on involvement. One way students can get involved in this campaign is by participating in local cleanups, whether that's in your neighborhood or around your school, and documenting these types of waste they find. This helps identify patterns and gives people a clearer picture of what's actually ending up in our communities in terms of waste. Another focus we have is spreading awareness about the full cycle of waste, helping students understand where their garbage is going after it's thrown out and the broader impact it has. We want to encourage outdoor learning and real-world engagement as a big part of this project. All of this leads into our workshops, where students can share what they've learned and collaborate and start to turn these ideas into action within their own schools and school clubs. We're currently working on partnering with TDSB schools in order to host workshops and educate students on these different issues. I have to take it back to Sean.
Yes, so we are now a TDSB partner. So we can arrange to do in-class programming, as well as have students and classes out into Sun Valley or into other types of programming that we do. We're very open and flexible, so depending on what the curriculum needed and the focus needs to be at, we can help get kids more educated around with hands-on experience inside the Toronto area, Don Valley, and also throughout the waterways with the Paddle and Protect program. So to get in contact with us, our website, of course, is Don't Mess with the Dawn. Send us an email at info@don'tmesswiththedon, or reach out to one of our Instagram accounts. We are open to, yes, as I said, coming into classrooms. We've done a few TDSB classroom presentations before, even before we started this new partnership with TDSB, and we want to continue and grow that as we go into 2026.
Great.
And if you have any questions, yeah, we can save them to the end.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sean and Sia. I really appreciate hearing from you. Now I'd like to introduce our last presenter of the day, and I love how all three of your organizations have collaborated together. It's just really amazing. So One Piece a Day is a Toronto-based global environmental initiative launched in 2017 that encourages individuals worldwide to pick up one piece of litter daily and log it via an app to combat plastic pollution. Their goal is simple: to keep our planet free from garbage and inspire global participation in taking care of our Earth one piece at a time. So Dimitri, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks for having us, everyone. Very nice to be here. Nice to be here among great friends like Sean and Haley with the U of T Trash team. And I might be echoing a little bit of some of the information that's been shared, but I think it's such a big kind of challenge globally for us that it's okay to sort of somewhat reinforce each other's arguments and points here. So one piece a day, as Jen, thanks for that great introduction. So we are a global litter app. I think we were one of the first that was launched about 10 years ago. I'll just go through a little bit about our journey, what One Piece a Day is, impact, and moving forward. So our journey started a little bit different. We're a little bit of a different organization from perhaps maybe the U of T trash team, or maybe a little bit more like Don't Mess with the Dawn, in that we are a volunteer organization. I myself am an architect. I run an architecture practice in the city. Um, and so not really kind of in the environmental field. However, what happened about 10 years ago, we were on a March break with our kids in Mexico, and I went for a run on the beach, and this is, can you imagine scrolling back 11 years where things like single-use plastic were not kind of commonplace terms for us, and running into a beach like this was arresting for me, right? I was running, and I was a Boy Scout, so I was picking up litter, picked up some handfuls, a bucket, there was some garbage bags. After about half an hour, I picked up about 5 garbage bags, multiple handfuls. I was laying little piles because I eventually I would have to run back. So little piles, big piles of garbage everywhere. And at a certain point, I realized I had to stop and run back to our resort. And I just remember standing there, sort of transfixed, almost like somebody had punched me, and looking up the entire coast, what felt like the entire coast of Mexico, and just feeling like the litter just was relentless. It didn't end. It just kept going as far as the eye can see. And all the way back to the to our hotel, I kept thinking, a few thoughts kept running through my head, and one was I didn't understand this problem. Again, this was about 10, 11 years ago, so I didn't understand what this was. I suspected this was not coming, all being generated from Mexico, which was turned out to be correct. And it's more of a function of ocean tides and currents. And lastly, it was very clear that this was a huge problem. I suspected a global problem, much bigger than one person or one organization. I had this thought, like, at this point, most of the apps on my phone were basically my kids, their video games or whatnot, the games that they had. And I thought, look, what if we can use this phone that is in billions of people's pockets around the planet, and inspire people to do something as simple as picking up one piece of litter a day. Um, I thought that, I just had this idea, and I thought that this could be one way of tackling the problem, because what was very evident was this was such a big problem, even though I just stumbled into it, bigger than one person, bigger than the one organization. So what's the best way to do this? Try and ask the world to help. And that was how One Piece a Day founded, just from that one run, that one thought on the beach. And if so it took us a while. I'm not a tech guy. It took us about a year and a half to develop the app, and after many failed attempts, we ended up launching, going live on Apple in May 2017, and also Google Play about a couple of months later. And really, um, a little bit more about us. We're basically also a charity. We're non for profit, and mostly volunteer organization, committed to helping do our part in the fight against litter and plastic pollution around the world. Being the app, in it was very important to start educating ourselves about what the problem was. So this is from an article in 2017, almost 10 years ago. And again, that 9%, except in reverse. So this is from Forbes. Like articles like this were just kind of becoming sort of coming to the forefront of consciousness, of global consciousness at the time. So 91% of plastic is single-use plastic is not recycled, a million bottles per minute. There was another article in the World Economic Forum that came out around the same time, and you probably have all seen it or familiar, that every minute a garbage truck worth of plastic is being dumped into the oceans. That was from 2015 from the World Economic Forum. Haley, you used the elephant analogy, which I think is brilliant. This one was also, I think, from Forbes magazine from about 10 years ago. So it's really important for us to imagine and visualize what single-use plastic, the real impact is having. So, for For example, if we go on the far left, so every hour, what is the impact of single-use plastic on the planet? So if you collected all the plastic bottles in the world and put it in Rio de Janeiro, it would dwarf the Christ statue, in terms of the number of bottles. That translates daily into 1.3 billion bottles, which is half the size of the Eiffel Tower in height. After 1 month, that's 40 billion bottles consumed, which is 3 times the height of the Eiffel Tower. And in a full year, that's almost 482 billion bottles, higher than the Burj Khalifa. So, kind of working alongside Haley's elephant analogy, this really puts it into very sharp focus. What really what we're up against in terms of the production of single-use plastics. It's very simple. It's basically a tracking device. We started with literally a focus on one piece a day, and then I think I shared with Jen and some of the others at the TDSB that within a few, gosh, maybe within a month, there was a German user who emailed us and was very frustrated to say, "Well, I pick up 100 pieces of litter a day, so your app is not working for us." So we've we've expanded the app to basically be able to log and track as many pieces of litter as an individual, a school, or organization can collect, working alongside groups like Don't Mess with the Dawn, like Greenpeace Canada, the Great Canadian Litter Shoreline Cleanup. We've actually introduced litter categories. So if you're focused on, for example, like maybe working with the U of T trash team, if you're interested in seeing how much sort of coffee cups or plastic bottles or straws or containers. We are basically using roughly the Greenpeace Canada checklist for our litter categories, and over COVID, we've expanded that to include things like PPE and plastic gloves. A lot of we have users in tropics or Miami. They're pulling out rubber tires out of the ocean. So we've added whatever our users are kind of finding more of or commonly and have requested. So we've added that to our litter categories. We've also added a leaderboard for gamification. It's almost like a Duolingo, a little bit of a friendly competition, which has been quite interesting because you can see who the really competitive people and groups are around the world. And we've also introduced a refuse category too. So this was a result of a talk we did at Dunlow Public School years ago, where a couple of grade 3 students came up to us and said, "Well, what happens uh, to the plastic after you pick it up?" And at this point, it was there was a Globe and Mail article that came out that kind of highlighted the things that only 9% of plastics are recycled, and that we're actually Canada, the U.S., and the developed countries were selling our plastics to China, and half of that was being dumped or incinerated and so on. So we went back to the drawing board and we came up with a refuse single-use plastic category as well. So running parallel alongside our litter removal category as well. And so this works like, for example, I was in the Vancouver airport a couple of years ago, and somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, here's a free bottle of plastic water in a plastic bottle." I said, "No, thank you." So you could log that as there you go. You could a plastic bottle category there. So this is kind of a fun way of tracking your refusal of single-use plastic as well. So in addition to the app, we also run cleanups. So we do our individual cleanups. So we've been doing Sunnyside, like some of the beaches, Cherry Beach, Sunnyside, Woodbine, for the last 5 years. We've also, I think, Sean, you mentioned that the
There we
phenomenal
are.
Earth Day cleanup. There you are. That's right. We're all the green shirts, the one piece a day, and the Don't Mess with the Dawn. So this was a bit of an epic cleanup. I think we had roughly 800 people show up, and we had logged. So we were helping Don't Mess with the Dawn actually catalog and log all of the litter picked up. You can see the piles, just absolute sheer piles of litter that we cleaned up from the banks, the valley, and the banks of the Don River. So yeah, that
Epic.
was that Earth Day. Yeah, epic. It was an epic, incredible event. There's other groups in the city which are doing wonderful work with the Waste Plan who do like paddle cleanups around Lake Ontario, around Humber River, the islands, and so on. Just some of the cleanups that we've been doing around the city. We also partner. We are an official partner, as the others, our other colleagues here today, with the TDSB, the Catholic School Board, and so on. So we do offer at our cleanups like volunteer hours, and for some of the elementary or the high school students, and we always have a strong turnout for all of our cleanups. We are a partner of the TDSB. We've also worked with schools in the private sector as well. So there's a couple of shots from that's the Toronto French School and Upper Canada College. I think we had a talk at the same time you guys did as well, Sean, a few years ago at UCC. Some of our work does as alongside with Haley and the U of T trash team and Don't Mess with the Dawn. So what became evident to us very quickly, and we bet Jen, very early in our career in One Piece a Day, and Jen had invited us to do present at the TDSB Eco Fair, and also from that led on to doing school talks and school cleanups. So we've had some wonderful experiences and success with our work partnering with the TDSB. So Denlow Public School, this is where my kids went to school. So we did one cleanup. We did a talk in the morning and a cleanup for the lunch break, and the children picked up over 600 pieces of litter just over their lunch break. We did a talk at Ledbury Park shortly thereafter, and the school was so inspired that they had kind of committed to doing and tracking 100,000 pieces of litter. After our talks at the Toronto French School, the school within 2 weeks had banned plastic straws outright in the school and banned all use of plastic bottles at school events. So you have to bring your own bottle, and they have water dispensers. Honestly, we couldn't have imagined that from an idea of a run on a beach in Mexico like 12 years ago, that the app would gain this much traction. So the app right now is being used in 44 countries around the world. It's a bit hard to tell, but we've got over 10,000 users. The reason it's a little bit tricky is because we have organizations, some of them who have like 400 people that are logging their litter on one account. Like there's a group in Miami, which is one of our top contributors. So across Europe, Africa, Asia, Middle East, Australia, and New Zealand. And the total that we've picked up since we went live with the app in 2017 is over 7,600, 7.68 million pieces of litter. It's kind of pausing a moment and just celebrating our top users. So I mentioned a group in Miami. So these young people are out every weekend cleaning the beaches in Miami and the causeways and so on. So they were the first group to hit 1 million pieces. The second group was a group of seniors in Wales. They're known as the Pentwyn Lindren Pickers, and so they're out every single day. And Barbara's the head of that group, the leader, and they were the second group to pick up 1 million pieces. And in some ways, this was my favorite group. One day, this post came up with a school name that we didn't recognize, and we did some research, and it was a school for orphan children and homeless youth in South Africa. And they found a app, and they logged in one weekend just under 3,000 pieces. So that's one of my favorite groups and users on the app right now. Fortunate to receive some great support and endorsements from really important leaders, from David Suzuki right out of the outset. David sent us a wonderful endorsement, and he said he's committed to picking up one piece of litter a day, which is wonderful. We've also got support and endorsement from Sir David Attenborough in England, kind of giving us a great heartwarming shout out. We're roughly at about 7.7 million pieces of litter. So there was one study done in Europe a few years ago where they examined turtles all the way from the North Sea to the Mediterranean to the Adriatic. So all of the different major water bodies in Europe. And they found that every single turtle in this survey had ingested an average of 150 pieces of plastic. That means some turtles had ingested much more, others less, but no turtle in this entire study was clean of plastic ingestion. So if we translate that number, that in terms of, because sometimes we like to share with the students and the schools and so on, like, a kind of an impact of the work that we've done. So if we remove 7.7 million pieces of litter around the world, that's the equivalent of about 77,000 turtles saved. And there was another study done that the average whale is consumed or ingested about 1,000 pieces of plastic. And we've seen numbers, there's some whales that are just have ingested much, much more than that. And so roughly taking a conservative number, we're at about 7,700 whales saved. If we look at it in a kind of a terms of sort of impact. Just in terms of the growth, I think the first year, 2017, we had logged globally. We had a very small community at that time, about 35,000 pieces. And it took about 3 years to hit our first million pieces. And after that, we started experience exponential growth. So right now we're on target to hit about 10 million pieces of litter by 2027 to be logged on the app. We're also very lucky in 2021, Glad Canada approached us to be the official app. They used to run this thing called Clean Canada Together, which is a coast to coast, a friendly sort of competition to see how much litter people can pick up across the major cities in Canada. So we had collaborated with them, and unfortunately, this hit right in the middle of COVID. So the turnout was a little bit less than we expected because the government had cautioned against large gatherings of people to do these large cleanups for obvious reasons during COVID. But nevertheless, we still managed in that one weekend to pick up 250,000 pieces of litter logged across Canada. Really, we in some ways we're a support tool for organizations like the TDSB, like Greenpeace, like Great Canadian Shoreline. Our target is, our goal is really to a clean planet, and working with organizations like the TDSB through education and also through cleanups and partnerships um, to increase awareness and really kind of offer another way of helping schools track the contribution of litter that they're contributing to cleaning the planet. Just very, very quickly, I know the importance of the 6 Rs. Recycling is not even one of the 6 Rs. So just a few suggestions. Some of the friends and partners that we work with, there's many refilleries across Toronto to avoid having to buy soap and shampoos and so on in containers. My Supply, or Supplies are called now, offers takeout. You can order your takeout in reusable stainless steel containers and so on. We're happy to share more of this later if anyone is interested in any links or more information on this. Small actions by many change the world. The app is free. We've worked really hard to keep it free. Most of our work is volunteer. We enjoy coming to the different schools throughout the TDSB and doing talks, and you can get in touch with us through Jen, through Sarah, and we'd love to continue the conversation with everyone here. Thank you very much.
Dimitri and Sean and Sia and Haley. I love how all of your organizations are so grassroots and volunteer driven. It just, reminds us all how important it is when we work together, right? And that we can have an impact. I know we're over time, but if we just stayed on for a couple of extra minutes, is everyone okay with that? Excellent. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for any of our speakers today? You can just feel free to mute yourself if you want to just hop on. Okay, so just let everyone know that our next webinar is on Thursday, March 12th, and we'll be focusing on energy and making it visible in your classroom. For TDSB schools with grades 6 to 8, we are having our Student Leadership Conference at Downsview Park, March 24th to 27th. and a teacher can bring up to 5 students for the day. And then if you check our EcoSchools, TDSB EcoSchools, and the OISE Scan website, there'll be other listings for webinars on the sites. But I think we'll wrap it up for today, and thanks everyone for joining us. And if you can just do the exit poll on your way out, that would be really helpful for us. Again, I want to thank our speakers for joining us, Sarah for helping advance the slides, Chris for recording, Alicia for making sure I don't freak out.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.